First, when you go to taste a glass of wine, you always look at the color first, because that's a good way to see, one, if the color is good, if it's clear. Some wines can be cloudy, sometimes that's a fault, sometimes not. If the color is brown or off, that can indicate that the wine is faulted as well. So you always want to look at it first. Another thing I do before I don't care where I am, how expensive the restaurant, I smell my glass before there's wine in it. Oftentimes the detergents and things that people do to glassware can cause them to taste or smell off, and it can impact your ability to really smell what the wine tastes like. So, first things first, everybody has their own technique for smelling. There's basically three main ways that people in the trade do it. There's the quick sneak, where you take a quick one, you come back, you think about what you smelled, and then you go back and you take a longer one. Then there's the technique where you stick your whole nose in there and you breathe in real deep. And then you think about what you did. I do a combination of both. I do what my husband and my friends call the two-cheek sneak. I do a sniff down the center, and I stick my nose way down in there. And I want you to get used to really breathing. And that first sniff, I use that to decide, because I want to know if it's faulted or not. We think around 50 to 58% of the population can't detect faulted wine. So you could put a wine that's turned to vinegar or got one of the 12 major faults on it, and they'll never know. And the problem is, when they're in the trade, they may be pouring you a wine that's faulted. So one thing that I like to teach is the class on faults, because right away you need to know if you can or can't identify it. Me, I can practically smell it from here. That's just how, even with allergies and stuffed up nose and everything, I can smell a fault at 50 paces. I don't know why, it's just the way I am. Women tend to be more sensitive to this because we're so into aromas and things like that. So, what I do next, but I want you to develop your own thing, is after I've made my initial test, just to make sure there's no fault, no weird smells, whatever, I go in and I sniff one nostril, and then the other part of that's to smell better. But part of it's because sometimes my allergies, one side I can't smell on. So at least I know I'm getting 50% chance of smelling something. And you have to stick your nose way in there. Just be careful, because when you first do this, if you breathe too deep, you could take some wine up your nose. And that defeats the purpose. So,
I don't know if I'm smelling a clean glass or smelling
the wine.
Yeah.
And I close my eyes, because for me, I visualize not what I think I'm smelling, what I'm not smelling. It's easier to eliminate what you're not smelling, because it's a shorter list, than to think, is it pear, is it apple, is it whatever. So, right off the bat, you should get fresh citrus, like lemon zest, lemon, a little bit of lemongrass even. Very clean and refreshing. Sometimes white peach is pretty predominant. This one isn't as much. And a little bit of, like, almost nougatine, like candied nut brittle or something, but almond, not peanut. And all of this is going to develop over time. And if you smell ginger, that doesn't mean you're wrong. That just means I smell one thing and you smell another. And that's what you have to remember. There aren't any rules about this, and you're not wrong. Your palate is going to be different than mine, just like some people like hot and spicy and others don't. But the important thing to remember is, can you describe it for the customer? So that if you are approaching a table, what I want you to start thinking of is, when you go to that table, you want to talk to them about the wine, you need to start asking them questions. First question is, do you have a particular style or a wine that you regularly drink? Because that's going to immediately tell you something. One, if they drink really oaky, buttery Chardonnay from California, they're probably not fans of clean, high-acid Chardonnay from cool climate that exhibits like stainless steel minerality with tart green apple like you get on a Chablis, or a cooler climate from Burgundy, which is also, Chablis is part of Burgundy, but an entirely different